Welcome to Talking Giants and welcome to Draft Day 2021. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. Justin, it's draft day, man. There is nothing quite like, the first day of the season for the NFL, but this is a close second for me, man. This really is a close second. There is so much buildup. There is so much work put into it. And this is the future of our team. The future of our team hinges on draft day, on these next 3 days, on this weekend. This next weekend can make us a Super Bowl champion in the next 3 years, or it can set us back in the next few years. It's the most important day for NFL fans. How are you?
Yeah, it's not just arguably, it is the best way to improve your football team long term. And honestly, Bobby, we're looking at this year. We said this post free agency, and it's tough to maybe put this expectations on the Giants, especially on the Giants 2021 draft class. Like as we say this, it's tough to put this expectation on them, like associated with them. We're expecting to win the NFC East this year. There's no reason why the New York Football Giants cannot win the NFC East in 2021. And I'm sure Dallas is saying the same thing. Washington is saying the same thing. So that's why it's tough. But realistically, for what the Giants did in free agency to set themselves up in this spot, there is no reason why we cannot win the NFC East in 2021. And this draft class, I'm expecting at least the first 2-3 picks of this draft class, because odds are we're going to be acknowledging positions of need. You kind of do draft for need a little bit. I'm expecting these guys to come in and kind of come in here and contribute day one. I want to see it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Justin, while you get your mic to not sound weird, I'm going to tell you who brought you this episode. This episode was brought to you by Joshua Corvette Revette, Desmond, no name Desmond. I've been through the desert on a Desmond with no name. Vincent Fabio, Vincent, Gary Stinson. He sounds like he just kind of like works in the automobile industry. Gary Stinson. Joe Barton, my old roommate. Last name is Barton. How about that? Maybe there's some familiarity. He kind of hates the Giants because we were roommates. But anyways, Carlos from Philly. Carlos from Philly has been a day one supporter. I remember doing Daniel Jones draft stuff, and Carlos from Philly was right there. Like he was even like, it wasn't just like a supporter. He would challenge me on stuff. So I like Carlos from Philly and Martin Gendron. Justin, who are these 60-minute men?
Oh boy, these 60-minute men. I'm not a 60-minute man because my microphone was screwed up to start the show. Apparently, does it sound better, Bobby Skinner?
Yes, it does sound better. So now you're going to be like a 57-minute man.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, not a 60. I don't have what it takes, but you want to know who has it. You want to know who has what it takes, Bobby Skinner? Those people that went to patreon.com/talking
who else?
Giants.
Philip Beals. I just got an email saying he joined the Patreon. So who's this boogie eater Philip Beals?
They're these geeks. They went to patreon.com/talking Giants, and it's going to be that being a Patreon member is going to be really important because we're going to be live streaming at like 2 a.m., 1 a.m. Friday morning.
Yes, sir.
post round one to react to whatever the Giants do. If the Giants want to get nuts and they want to trade back into round one, or if they just take whoever they take at 11, you want to be there, and we're going to stream it and we're going to react to it. And if you're going to be up and if you're going to be going crazy like we are, then join us, patreon.com/talking Giants, and you get some other cool perks too.
Justin, how are you feeling going into this? Because last year the betting odds were at this point were Jedrick Wills -1. Like Andrew Thomas was the fourth most likely, but earlier this week we got a lot of cornerback chatter, and then Kwity Paye became like the second highest betting odds. How are you feeling going into this? Because I feel pretty confident. Like I like Kwity Paye more than most people, so even if they did draft him, I wouldn't be mad, and we'll talk about it. But like I feel really confident that they really can't screw this up. And unless they take a quarterback or running back, a defensive tackle or a safety, they really can't screw this up unless they just pick a guy who busts out. Like I feel like that's the only way they screw this up, because last year it was very clear. It's like, we need to pick an offensive tackle. Like we need to. I look at that class as one of the best offensive tackle classes of this century, paired with a huge need at that spot where it was like, you know what? I would like Isaiah Simmons, but I'm going to be pretty damn disappointed if we don't get an offensive tackle. This year, we are really kind of wide open, even though the fans are narrowed down to offensive line, wide receiver, and then Micah Parsons.
Yeah, so I'm trying to not get too overwhelmed with the options. Because even in years past, we would get overwhelmed with the options and even the reactions to the picks. Like, I had quite an interesting reaction to 2018 Saquon Barkley, and then everybody had a reaction in 2019 to Daniel Jones. So I'm trying to not get too like overwhelmed with, oh, if we're going to get a name that we don't like, am I going to freak out? Am I going to do whatever? I don't, I'm not trying to get overwhelmed, but I'm also so locked in right now with, not to get into like our pump up draft speech yet, but I'm so locked into this idea that this offense has been the thing that, really, and it's an offensive league. The offense has been one of the reasons why the team has been like just behind in years past, right? This is even when the defense has not been up to par. Having Eli Manning towards the latter years at quarterback, and moving on from Pat Shermer, and going to Joe Judge, having Jason Garrett here, the offense has been one of the main reasons why they've been behind. And last year, most notably, Bobby, here are just some stats to remember on the offensive side of the ball. Sixth lowest rate of pass plays of 15 plus air yards. And Daniel Jones was also one of the most efficient deep ball passers in the National Football League. Daniel Jones, 11 sacks in under 2.5 seconds. That was tied for first in the National Football League with Carson Wentz. So that would basically back up like, oh, we need an offensive lineman. Third lowest rate of pass plays of 15 plus yards. Third least amount of total offensive plays run. So this offense couldn't block. And I would say more importantly, this offense was not an explosive play offense. And what you need an offense to be in today's NFL, you need it to be explosive. It doesn't have to be the most explosive, but you need it to be somewhat explosive and somewhat above average in that regard. And that is the one area where the Giants really need. And that's where my brain is at right now. Thoughts?
I agree, man. I agree. But here's the thing. And I wanted to hear your defensive stats because that's going to like kind of click me into what I want to talk about with how we react to the draft and how we're kind of reacting pre-draft as like rumors we're hearing.
Yeah. So where my brain is at with defense, and today I was actually nice how I kind of got back into the analytics side of things. So Giants defense in 2020, they utilized cover 3 zone at the second highest rate in the National Football League at 37%. Now remember, heading into this year in 2019, Patrick Graham was very much like single high safety, man coverage. And that's what we thought that he was going to do. And that's what we thought that he was going to be. And then he did a total 180. And it's like, okay, we're just going to run cover 3 and zone defense a ton, which really threw us off, but it worked. It shows that he's a guy that can adapt and adjust, unlike Jason Garrett. 19th in blitz rate. But still, even though they were below average in their blitz rate, they were 10th in their pressure rate. But probably the worst thing about this Giants defense in 2020 is that they averaged 3 minutes per drive. And that was the third most in the National Football League. They had a hard time getting off the field. So if they're going to be looking at any way in this draft, I think the goal for the Giants defense in this draft, goal for the Giants offense is to get more explosive. Goal for the Giants defense is how can we be more aggressive? So maybe we can play more man coverage on the back end so then we can get off the field on third down and not be on the field for so long. Those are the two goals for offense and defense in this draft, I feel.
And so me and you are both like, go offense. We're going to talk about our mock drafts, but me and you are pretty clear in like, hey, wide receiver or offensive lineman gets the most positive reaction out of us. We've done our homework. We've prepped for this a ton. We have our opinions and we do believe in them strongly. But you mentioned that defensive stuff, man, and that defense could use some help. I know it was good last year, but like you said, they were a bend don't break, and that doesn't always translate year to year. And Patrick Graham does want to play more man. He does want to blitz more, but he knew he couldn't, so that he turned his defense into a bend don't break, and they did a damn good job of it. So it's not complaining, but it's the reality. But that defense could go to another level. One, if they added an edge that comes in and really can rush the passer, especially on third down, or you know what, you get a corner, say JC Horn, and it's like we got a JC Horn, Adoree Jackson, James Bradbury on the field on third down. We're gonna rush, we're gonna blitz 5, we're gonna blitz 6, and we're gonna let those dudes play man. And that's where I don't want them to do that. I would prefer an edge like Kwity Paye or Jalen Phillips over a corner like JC Horn or Patrick Surtain. But, and this is just me in general, I'm not going to be outraged. Again, unless they take a quarterback, a running back, a defensive tackle, or a safety, I'm not going to be outraged. Those are the positions that would get me outraged. And also, Wolves, you don't want to reach. You don't want to reach. You know what? as much as we take this seriously, it's like I only watched like 3 to max 4 or 5 games on these players, where these teams watch a ton. And these guys who do the draft stuff, as much work as they do, they're not doing as much work as the NFL teams are. So if they identify somebody that they like, just because Todd McShay and Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brookston have them at the top of our board, doesn't necessarily mean it's a reach. Like I can see a team being like Kwity Paye is not a reach at 11. Jalen Phillips is not a reach at 11. And I just want to like go through the list. We always look back at the draft and are like, damn, look how bad we screwed that up. 2012, Justin Blackmon was drafted 5th overall. Alshon Jeffrey 45th, T.Y. Hilton 92nd. Justin Blackmon was he considered a reach? No. But T.Y. Hilton, who was drafted 92nd, was the best wide receiver in that class. Alshon Jeffrey, drafted 45th, the best in that class. 2013, Deion Jordan, edge, 3rd overall. Guy's a real deal. Jamie Collins was drafted 52nd overall in that class. Tyler Eifert in that class, 21st. Travis Kelce, 63rd. So literally 3 times the picks after that. The first round tight end wasn't worth it. And the 3rd round tight end, if you were to redraft, would go in the top 10 of the freaking draft. Tavon Austin went 8th. DeAndre Hopkins went 27th. So it can be like, like I got a lot of heat because it's like I like De'Ami Brown 4th. But it's like, you know what? Who's to say I'm wrong on that? Like we're going to look back and be wrong about a handful of stuff. In 2014, Sammy Watkins wins 4th overall. Sammy Watkins was looked at as one of the best wide receiver prospects. He was exciting. He was flashy. All right, career. Allen Robinson went 61st. 61st. And has excelled with better quarterback play his entire career. Clowney went 1st in that class. DeMarcus Lawrence went 34th. He's a better player than Jadeveon Clowney. Even when Clowney's healthy, Tank Lawrence is better than him. 2015, Dante Fowler went 3rd. Bud Dupree, 22nd. Preston Smith, 38th. You would have said Bud Dupree or Preston Smith would have been a reach. But you know what? If those guys went in the top 10, those teams would have looked back and been like, you know what? We did a pretty damn good job. Frank Clark went 63rd. 2016, how about this, Giants fans? Eli Apple went 10th. You know who went 62nd? James Bradbury, a top 3 cornerback in the NFL. Eli Apple can't even make, 3rd string on a team these days. 2017, Solomon Thomas 3rd. TJ Watt, the best defensive player in the NFL maybe right now, went 30th overall. He's like took in 2nd and defensive player of the year the past couple of years. 2019, we remember that one. The Giants were called racist for picking Daniel Jones over Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins' own team didn't even want him after a couple months. So, listen, have your opinions, be strong in it. But the Giants can't outrage me unless we freaking pick a quarterback, running back, defensive tackle, or safety. So, it's fun. Let's react. Now, on the other end, if they pick the guy I want, I'm going to act like they're the smartest people in the world. That's how it works. But it's fun. I think we should enjoy this process, and especially with the success they had in 2020, I got a little more trust in them than I have before.
Yeah, and that's fair. But I also think it's fair, like if they take an edge, right? If they take an edge, I think it's fair to be not as excited. So while it's,
I agree, I won't be. I will be kind of in a sense. I won't be. I'll be a little disappointed if they don't. If there's one of those offensive linemen, a wide receiver, or even Parsons there, and they go edge.
Yeah, which time will tell. And I really think Chase Young and the Bosas of the world, in a way, not to just keep on talking about edge, because I really do think they're going to go offense. I really do. I think everything that they did in free agency, and especially going out and getting a Dory Jackson when they didn't really need a Dory Jackson, when that wasn't really a need, getting them that kind of like cemented at least at the back end and the coverage part of their defense. But what was my point?
Well, it's like if they go edge, even if you may not like that guy probably walks in as our best player at that position.
Yes,
by a wide margin. Like you can make an argument that if they take the best player, the edge, who ends up being the best edge in this draft, that improves our team the most for 2020. Now or 2021. You don't draft for 1 year, so I understand that. But I think that's a fair argument,
Mm-hmm.
Like, rookie offensive linemen struggle. Wide
Rookie
receivers,
corners.
like we kind of like the trio of guys we have when they're healthy. Now, I would love to draft another guy to that group, But it's like we kind of like that trio. We like having John Ross as a backup and seeing what Dante Pettis turns into.
Yeah. Exciting stuff, Bobby. Exciting stuff. My cliche saying is, during free agency, during the draft is, by the time we open our eyes on Friday morning, the New York Football Giants are going to be a better football team, and I take great solace in knowing that.
Hopefully they're a better football team with the guys we like, though, because we're about to do our mock draft. And you know what? Last year I picked Andrew Thomas, and people were like, "Bobby, you were right." I was like, "No, I wasn't right." We're gonna do our mock drafts. We're not picking what we think. We're picking what we want. Like this is what we want. We are not predicting. Like
Nope.
this is about us and our opinions, not like trying to get it correct. But I hope I am right. Now it's going to be a little more hard to predict because we're at 11th and not 4th overall when we knew the first 2 picks of 2020. Well, we don't know how it's going to fall. And look, the Broncos, I was kind of banking on them being a QB team. They just traded for Teddy Bridgewater. Poor Pat Shurmur, man. That man finally got the QB he wanted, did well with them, and then got fired. And now he's stuck with Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. I feel bad for my guy, Pat. And
it's ironic that teams keep trading for Teddy Bridgewater when he's a check down Charlie. Teams that Joe Brady isn't he a guy that likes to stretch the field? At least he did it in LSU. Didn't really do it so much in 2020 because of Teddy Bridgewater. Now, Pat Shurmur was given Teddy Bridgewater, who has a notorious reputation for being check down Charlie, when all Drew Lock did last year was just toss the ball down the field. So poor Teddy Bridgewater keeps on going to systems where he doesn't fit.
I like Pat Shurmur, but him and Drew Lock was a match from hell because it was like, oh, you want to go deep? I'll go deep every time, coach. Like his like average depth of target was like I might have set records. Drew Lock's average depth of target. Like I remember looking at those stats and it's like, man, I'm kind of pissed that Daniel Jones is this low, but look at what's going on in Denver right now. Daniel Jones was Pat Shurmur's best QB. Look it up. People say what? And then look it up. He's the best QB he's ever called plays for.
Hopefully they go corner. Hopefully Broncos go corner. Another team that goes corner.
Yes, go corner. Go corner, Denver. All right, Justin, it's time for our 2021 mock drafts. Last year you went Jedrick Wills. I went Andrew Thomas. We both went Antoine Winfield in the 2nd round, and then so on. So right now we have the 11th overall pick. So we kind of put together our board so we can, make it fair. We went QBs with the first 4. Pitts, Chase, Sewell was gone. So that's 7. And I think we went anyways, we made it to where we can talk about the guy that we realistically hope. Like I want Sewell to fall, but I don't think it's a realistic hope. So Justin, I'm kicking off my mock draft. First round pick, 11th overall, Rashawn Slater. I've been on this train as soon as they signed Kenny Golladay, my pick went from one of the Bama wide receivers to Rashawn Slater. I think he's a little bit of a cleaner prospect than Penei Sewell right now as far as pass protection. We all know the notorious matchup with him and Chase Young, and we could have 2 Chase Young stoppers at tackles with Andrew Thomas and Rashawn Slater. How about that? Obviously opted out of 2020. Now, there has been a big debate of can Rashawn Slater to play guard because he hasn't played guard. Where Duke Mayweather. He's his trainer. He wants him to play tackle, and I get that. And I think Duke's point is just overall just like stop trying to switch good tackles to guard. Yep. But my view with this, Justin, last year when the Giants took Andrew Thomas, I was very clear. He needs to play left tackle. I mean, we were getting into like battles with people. Like he needs to play left tackle. Do not waste this rookie year of him easing in at right tackle. Let him play left tackle. He's going to be better than Nate Solder from day one. He was. Let's be real. And let him learn through those struggles and not have to worry about switching positions in year 2. This year, because I like Matt Peart more than I like the prospects of Lemieux and Hernandez, I hope he plays guard. But if Peart's not ready, then he plays tackle. So I am very open to hey, Coach Judge and staff, figure this one out. But I do believe the Giants struggled on the offensive line. They added Golladay. I think that makes Slayton so much better. Shep's going to be good in the slot. You got some decent depth there with Ross and Pettis. I believe in protecting Daniel Jones. Protect Daniel Jones. You got 2 pieces you are confident on the offensive line right now in Nick Gates and Andrew Thomas. 2 pieces. You can't expect all 3 of those other dudes to make a jump forward. get Rashawn Slater.
Bobby, if the Giants do it and if they follow that route, I'm extremely, extremely excited. And there's a couple players. I'm extremely excited with Devonta Smith. I'm extremely excited with Rashawn Slater, and I'm extremely excited with the guy that I selected 11th overall in my mock draft, and that is Alabama wide receiver Jalen Waddle. This is one of
You
those
scumbag.
This is I know you're probably listening to this, be like, Justin, you were yelling and hooting and hollering and screaming about the offensive line just like Bobby was. First of all, I think it's good radio if people disagree. Second of all, I genuinely did have a change of heart. I will say a little bit of last year, me taking Jedrick Wills and Bobby taking Andrew Thomas, I wanted that to be different. And I was saying, oh, technique. I really did like Andrew Thomas. But this is genuinely like a difference and a change of heart that I had. And here's why. Looking at the wide receiver again and doing our wide receiver draft preview, and just watching Waddle again and then thinking about this Giants offense. And yes, there is such a question mark about if Waddle can fit. That scares me. That really does scare me. Will Jason Garrett and will this Giants team, will they adjust enough to fit Jalen Waddle? But Bobby, if we have Kenny Golladay on one side and Jalen Waddle on the other, my theory is the Giants will have to adjust the way that they play call. They will have to adjust their vertical concepts where they will have no choice but to throw the ball deep more. And that will force defenses to not blitz us as much. Because one of the stats that I didn't say earlier, or I mentioned how Daniel Jones was the highest blitz quarterback one of the highest blitz quarterbacks in the National Football League last year. And that was a detriment to the offensive line's development, especially when you have a young offensive line. I think teams want to take advantage of all that. An offense that doesn't throw the ball deep, a young quarterback, a young offensive line. It was a it was a disaster. So let's just take advantage of it and let's just blitz. Jalen Waddle, selecting him, adding him to this offense, another year of experience for Daniel Jones, getting Saquon Barkley back, adding Kenny Golladay, who was one of the best contested deep ball catchers in the National Football League, and adding him, such a difference maker like that. I think that does more for the offensive line more than anything besides selecting an offensive lineman in round one.
I hate you. You want to know why? Because I am jealous. I want to say Jalen Waddle. I want to pick a wide receiver. Like, you know how much more fun it is to talk about Kenny Golladay and Jalen Waddle than it is Rashawn Slater and Andrew Thomas? It is so much more fun. And everything you said is true. Like, you have Kenny Golladay and Jalen Waddle on opposite sides. Like, please blitz us. I dare you, please, for the love of God. Play man coverage and blitz us. Double team Jalen Waddle. We'll throw a jump ball to Kenny Golladay. Double team Kenny Golladay, and we'll throw a slant to Jalen Waddle, and he'll take it to the house. So, wide receiver is 1B for me. Like it is. Like last year, it was offensive tackle, and Isaiah Simmons was a clear number 2. Wide receiver is a 1B for me because it really does help this offense. It is so much more fun. But again, I do have some belief in Slayton, and I believe in Slater. I gotta protect my quarterback. So I am staying with Slater, but I am jealous of you. Like I am jealous of you because I'm mad that I don't get to be the one that has fun picking the wide receiver.
I'm sorry.
And I think they are going to pick a wide receiver, by the way, too.
I think it's if Jalen Waddle is there, I trust Jordan Ronan, by the way, and I'm getting this from Jordan Ronan. A lot of other beat reporters are saying corner, edge, whatever. People are getting nervous that the odds on Kwity Paye is suddenly going up. I genuinely think that if Jalen Waddle is there, they're going to pick him. I genuinely do.
What about I think it's Devonta Smith, though.
Devonta Smith would be the safe player there. And we talked about this during our preview. I think Devonta Smith is an extremely safe player, but that doesn't mean that he's bad. Like me saying safe does not mean that he's bad. But he is a safer pick. He is a safer prospect just because he's more well-rounded. He has a lot more reps under his belt. But Jalen Waddle is the more exciting player. And everything that the Giants have done this offseason, especially their big moves and big opportunities, it's been fun, splashy, and exciting. So why not continue it?
All right, Justin. I am, for my second-round pick, 42 overall. We didn't talk about this guy on his positions episode. He was a late find for me. In fact, he was my last breakdown. Another opt-out, but the Pac-12 really screwed up their season. So, like, their opt-outs don't even count as opt-outs. Edge out of Washington, Joe Tryon, 6'5", 259 pounds. I do have him as my third best edge after Kwity Paye and Jalen Phillips, but I don't like if they went first round, I did that whole don't get outraged speech. I might get a little outraged if they went like Joe Tryon or Greg Rousseau at 11. But at 42, I really want Joe Tryon. In 2019, he had 41 tackles, 8 sacks, 12 and a half tackles for loss. So not amazing production, but it was like I was watching them. It's like, man, they're like rushing 3 and they have him playing on the inside. But he is a perfect scheme fit. And I don't think I'm not sacrificing like value for just scheme. You know, like if you took Azeez Ojulari, I think you'd be sacrificing value for scheme at 11. Because he does have some coverage ability. They don't do it a ton, but when he does, he looks fine at it. That perfect size for that 34 outside linebacker sets and he is versatile and he's good at everything. He doesn't like, you're not going to sacrifice anything in the run game with him. He sets that edge and he sets it naturally. And I think he's got real good pass rush moves. His hands are so active. They never stop. And that's what I look for a guy in the edge is somebody like that. His lateral agility is really good. He can he'll take on a double team and free up a linebacker, which I do think really does matter to Joe Judge and Patrick Graham and what they're looking for. And his motor is just go, 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 go. He never stops. He is my edge 3. And so I have an edge. Who I was deciding between here was Joseph Asai, who is the guy I like as an edge player. But I do like Tryon better than him. And De'Ami Brown. I really wanted to go De'Ami. I love him more than most. He is my wide receiver 4. But the edge, Joe Tryon's immediately our best player at a position. De'Ami Brown has to come in and fight for reps with Slayton off rip. So I did go with him here. Landon Dickerson was here too, which kind of made me like, oh, I wish I would have went wide receiver, but it's like, you know what? I feel good about myself.
Yeah. I also think that a lot of the mock, we can't control simulations, but a lot of the mock drafts, and we're using the Draft Network, by the way. We both use the Draft Network. They all have Landon Dickerson falling to the second round. Like almost you do it every single time. They're gonna have him falling. I don't think he's gonna fall. I mean, I would love for him to. Don't think he's going to. Bobby, round 2, I took Joseph Asai. I also took an edge rusher.
I thought you were going to go Dickerson. How about that?
No. Which is risky when we're talking about the interior offensive line and, hypocrite Justin saying, oh, well, you can just get a guard later. And I hated that phrase. Well, guess what? Justin's going to pull.
You're a scumbag. You really are.
I'm going to pull the whole, you can just get a guard later. And he's technically not even a guard, but we'll get to that in round 3. Round 2, Joseph Asai. I mean, Bobby, similar to Tryon. I mean, he motor. The guy just has it revved up to 100% all the time. And the thing that's exciting about Joseph Asai, he only has one full season of experience at edge rusher. So he had his 2019 season. He spent it as like this off-ball interior linebacker. I mean, he collected 90 tackles, 13 and a half tackles for loss, and 5 sacks. This year in 9 games, he had 5.5 sacks, 15 and a half tackles for loss, and 55 tackles. So more or less, that's what your edge numbers would be. But in 4 less games, he probably would have added on maybe a couple more sacks to that total. Maybe he's I don't want to say that he's raw, but he's not your typical speed edge rusher. He doesn't have maybe like a lot of moves, but because of his versatility, he can be that off-ball linebacker. He does have experience playing back in that regard, maybe back in coverage. They switched him to edge rusher because I think he's just a stronger as an edge rusher. His skill set fits better as an edge. Some other guys that were on the board for me, Peyton Turner was there. He's a defensive end / edge from Houston. Carlos Basham Jr., Rondale Moore, Baron Browning, Creed Humphrey, Ronnie Perkins was there. Bobby, I know you like Ronnie Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie Perkins, you probably definitely have Ronnie Perkins higher on your board in terms of edge rushers than Joseph Asai. Is that true?
I actually have Osai higher. I do. I like Osai a lot.
Yeah.
It's a nice cluster of guys there that are very close, though. It's like splitting hairs.
Yeah, Wyatt Davis was there, Amari Rogers, and Javon Holland. Some other significant guys were there on the board too. And I went Joseph Asai because the versatility, motor's high, and I think this is a guy that this defensive room, Patrick Graham, Coach Chaos, all these guys that he can develop into a pretty solid edge rusher that the Giants are looking for. Maybe not a flashy guy, maybe not a guy that's always going to put up a ton of stats, but a guy that the Giants like, and I could see them falling in love with him.
I like it. And he you know what? If I didn't look at Joe Tryon last second and learn about, break down his film, I might have went Joseph Asai here. But I didn't. So third round pick 76. Now, this year, our third round pick is pick 76. Last year was 99. That's a 23 picks is a very big difference.
Yep.
So I'm looking for someone who's going to play. Doesn't have to play right away, but he's going to play. And I was looking at wide receiver, looking at all the positions, and my top 10 wide receivers are off the board, Justin. My top 10 wide receivers are off the board. Now it's a very deep class at wide receiver, so I like 11. Chaz Surratt was off the board. Everyone knows my love affair with Chaz Surratt, maybe my favorite just player in the draft. Aaron Banks and Ben Cleveland were there, but I did go offensive line early, and it's like we're gonna have like 3 projects, and one of those guys and Lemieux and Hernandez. I went Western Michigan wide receiver Dwayne Eskridge. Now he's gonna play the slot. So my first wide receiver is more of a replacement for Sterling Shepard, who could be gone after this year. Shepard's our longest tenured Giant. His contract, it's already been kicked in and started when his extension. So Eskridge is going to play that slot at 5'9", 190 pounds. We talked about him on Monday with the wide receiver episode, so I won't go too crazy into him, but he's a big play machine. He is so fast, but they didn't give him the real route tree, so he can work on his route runnings. But he was a beast at the Senior Bowl. He was a standout player there. A little older, but he's played between positions. He's had a weird career, but he's going to come out and be fast out of that slot position. And you gave your whole spiel about playing man coverage and stuff. Dwayne Eskridge makes you think more than Sterling Shepard does. Like Sterling Shepard is going to be a good slot receiver for us, but Dwayne Eskridge worries you more than Sterling Shepard does.
Right on. You got your wide receiver, especially in a draft, which, we said the same thing last year about last year's draft. Rich with wide receivers, more rich wide receivers, arguably an interior offense lineman. You got your first one. All right, round 3. My round 3 selection is Josh Myers, interior offensive lineman from Ohio State. Now, here's the funny part about this pick. Tommy Tremble went on my mock draft. Tommy Tremble went right before, and he went to the Dallas Cowboys. I love that pick for them. He was probably going to be a guy that I was going to highly consider at this spot. But some other guys on the board were Brevin Jordan. Another guy on the board was Pete Werner from Ohio State. Chaz Surratt was on the board, Bobby. And all of the offensive linemen, all of the interior offensive linemen that we kind of like, this includes not Creed Humphrey, excuse me. This includes Ben Cleveland, Trey Smith, Deontay Brown, Aaron Banks. All those guys were on the board. I chose Josh Myers over him. And it's because I like Josh Myers a lot better. I enjoyed watching him. I think Aaron Banks and Trey Smith, I think, those would be the other 2 guys that I would be completely fine with taking in this hypothetical situation. I would love them because you want to know what? They're guards. You plug them in and right away and they're guards. Josh Myers has a lot of experience under center. And frankly, why I like Josh Myers better than Trey Smith and Aaron Banks is those guys were pretty methodical, especially Aaron Banks, very methodical in his movements. Trey Smith has a lot of upper body strength, but Josh Myers plays fast. And I think he's a smart football player who does very well moving up to the secondary level. He is a center. And he called out those protections at Ohio State, has a lot of experience at center. So we create kind of like a good problem where I know you don't want to necessarily move Nick Gates away from center, but also this does allow, if the organization really does believe in Will Hernandez and Shane Lemieux, it allows them to compete this year, get better. And if the Giants don't sign Will Hernandez to an extension at the end of this year, Josh Myers can be ready to start, possibly at guard if he develops well, or at center if they feel like they can move Nick Gates to guard post 2021.
I want to kill you for passing on Aaron Banks and Trey Smith for Josh Myers. And also moving Nick Gates to guard.
I didn't say it guaranteed it. Josh Myers could develop this year and they could view him as a guard. If
I view him as like a center guy. I
know, I do too. And we said it during our interior offensive lineman episode, but I like him. I like him a lot better than those guys. I enjoyed watching him more. And I'm not a scout. So there you go.
Scout, are you an NFL draft analyst or a former NFL draft analyst?
I'm a booger eater.
You should change your name to Scout Justin. All right. So 4th round, pick 116. Last year we had the 110th pick here, and we got a nice starter last year out of Darnay Holmes. And guess what, Justin? I'm getting another person who's going to come in and he's going to compete for starting reps. Because I actually like him more than a guy like last year who started at the position. And it's yet again, Justin, we are hitting up the dogs. We're hitting up the Georgia Bulldogs again. Monty Rice, linebacker out of Georgia. I think he comes in, competes with Reggie Ragland and Tay Crowder right away. And again, we have another fast Georgia linebacker with instincts. The knock on him is he's short. He's 6 foot, but he's not skinny. He's 6 foot, 240 pounds. So it's like, you see, it's like, oh, there's some like, even like my guy Chad Surratt. He's 6'1", like 225 pounds. He's a smaller linebacker. So Rice is short, but he is thick. I'd rather have that than tall and skinny, to be real. Naturally quick. He can sit, pounce. He just plays that linebacker position beautifully. He's another player I did a film breakdown on and was just like this. I fall in love with linebacker play a little easier than other positions, but Monty Rice is one of those guys I do, and I think he's extremely underrated. Like if we're going through my whole draft class, Monty's the guy that I think is just like he's totally underrated. Like the fact that he's going to go later, it's crazy to me. Like I view him right up there with like the top 5 as far as like my inside. Well, not top 5. My linebackers is Parsons, JOK, Zaven, Chaz, Bolton, and then Monty Rice 6. So top 6.
Bobby, I think we had one pick that was the same in our mock draft last year, and that was Antoine Winfield, 2nd round.
Yep.
And in my 4th round selection is also going to be Monty Rice.
Hey, rice and beans.
Well, I want to ask you a question. Who was the one that told you about Monty Rice? Who really liked him?
You just give me names. I'm like, okay, let me watch him. And who watched Monty Rice first, me or you?
I told you about him.
Yeah, but did you watch him?
Yes, I did. Why would I write down a name as a guy that I'm interested in if I didn't watch him? And then guess what? You took him from me. You took him from me on the podcast, and you did a film breakdown on him.
Well, if I do a film breakdown on a guy, I got to talk about him.
I know. So another guy that I was really considering here that I'd be very okay with, friend of the program, Dalen Hayes. Now that could be a little bit of a reach. Dalen Hayes in round 4, but if I really want to double down on edge, I would feel solid about that too. But yeah, Monty Rice for all the reasons that Bobby said. Bobby, I'm going to be honest. Monty Rice in round 4, I almost feel like I'm getting the second best player out of the 4 players that I selected. Monty Rice is the second best player out of my draft picks so far.
That's a hot take over Osai, really.
Yeah. I mean, because Osai, I'm drafting Osai because I feel like he can develop into more of a pure edge rusher rather than, 1 year where, by the way, Osai had crazy production at Texas. Crazy production. The fact that he did put up more sacks than he did in 2019 and, in 4 less games. I think he can really develop into something good, especially when he did in the Big 12. But I just feel really good about Monty Rice and the fact that he's here in the 4th round. I think he's the second best player that I've drafted so far.
I like it. All right, so now we're hitting the 6th round. We got 2 picks. We got pick 196 and pick 201. So I've done like 3. I did a midseason mock draft. I did a post-Senior Bowl mock draft, and then April 1st, draft month mock draft. And this guy was the constant for every time. Chris Rumph. Chris Rumph out of Duke. He was always the pick for me at this spot. He wasn't there this time. What? I was expecting, like, he was my cheat code for the 6th round was to get Chris Rumph. He wasn't there. Just pisses me off. But I'm going Louisville wide receiver Dez Fitzpatrick. I got the slot type in Dwayne Eskridge in the 3rd round. And on day 3, it is just clear cut. Get me players. I really don't care about position. I don't care if they the linebacker. The Giants last year picked like all those linebackers. I'm like, go for it. You're picking players, not positions. Yep. In the later rounds. And Dez Fitzpatrick, wide receiver out of Louisville, 6'1", 210 pounds. He had the past 3 years, 3 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. In 2017, his freshman year, he had 9 touchdowns. You want to know why?
Why?
Lamar Jackson was his QB.
So
that makes a difference. But he's always averaged between 15 and 20 yards per catch. He caught my eye at the Senior Bowl. Like, he was having very good practices at the Senior Bowl, Justin. And then in the Senior Bowl game, he was the leading receiver with 6 catches and 90 yards. The second best guy was Shi Smith with 3 catches and 57 yards. So he had 3 more catches and 63 more yards than anyone else who played in that Senior Bowl. And he had 2 drops. That's the big negative on Dez Fitzpatrick. He has drops, and it showed up in practice too. Like, he had 22 drops and 269 targets while he was in Louisville. So that's, like an 8% rate. That is definitely not a good number. Not a great athlete, but he is very good. He's like a good, solid route runner, and like especially working the sideline. Like, they had him as that outside receiver, and it's just like this guy runs comeback routes the way they're supposed to be ran. So he does all that. He makes those contested catches. Even, he does have the drops, but he has good ball skills. So I'm a fan out of Dez Fitzpatrick out of Louisville. And Louisville QB play has been really bad the past couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, not great. All right, so I have a plan at pick 201. So this is round 6 is very much I'm going with, very much BPA and a guy that I like kind of top of the board. And this is a guy that I looked at when we were doing our cornerback episode. And one of the reasons why I didn't preview him is because I thought that he was going to be projected to go a little too early. But here he is in round 6, Draft Network. We can't control simulation. I'm taking Shakur Brown out of Michigan State, 5'10", 185 pounds.
Shakur.
His draft projection, and this is at least NFL.com. I like, we both like NFL.com's kind of their little scouting reports, and they're projecting him to go round 4. So he's really fallen to round 6. NFL teams are disrespecting him a little bit. He's quick. He's maybe not very fast, but he's quick. And 5'10", I would say that's a solid size where you can maybe get away with playing as an outside corner. And Shakur Brown isn't one of these cornerbacks where I feel like every single cornerback in the draft, they're like a slot corner. If you're being picked outside the first 2 rounds, you're a slot corner and you're given that designation. I don't know if Brown's given that designation. So I think you're drafting an outside corner here, and you can never have enough corners. So I think he's pretty physical too. He like plays deep balls pretty well too. So Shakur Brown, Michigan State. Welcome to my hypothetical team.
All right, we're gonna finish off our mock drafts. We're finishing off pre-draft season, which I'm getting a little emotional as we make this last pick. Round 6, pick 201. Justin, I want us to both say our players' position. So, like, say, tight end Trey McKitty. We'll on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Running back Javion Hawkins.
Williams.
These two are going to be our rivalry going forward for the NFL. Like, it's going to be who is smarter, Bobby or Justin, on who these guys are. Because I think me and you really do battle, like in our running back episode. And you even threw shade at me. You're like, oh, look at these side by side. Who's faster, Javion Hawkins or Puka Williams video? I'm going back to back Louisville guys. How about that? And Javion Hawkins is actually a hometown kid. I found out 5'8", 183 pounds, running back. 6.2 yards per carry the last year, 5.8. Fast as lightning, faster than Puka Williams, in my honest opinion. He's a big play machine, Now he has some like wild plays where he'll reverse field and stuff, but I don't think he's a guy that like loses yards. I think he's a guy who gains yard out of plays where he's supposed to lose yards. Now Louisville's system was very much like run to the outside, which featured Javion Hawkins, but I really like him. And as far as running backs, we have Saquon Barkley, who's going to get the big workload. Devontae Booker is that do-it-all type of back. Like, he can block on third down. He can catch the ball a little bit. He can run inside. Like, he's a do-it-all. Doesn't do anything great, but he's a do-it-all type back. Give me my third running back as somebody who can do something special, who can just wow you, who can make a SportsCenter top 10 play, like, or Alfred Morris. But still holding out for Alfredite Nation for Alfred Morris to come back. But I'm going Javion Hawkins as my last pick of our 2021 official mock draft.
Give me an explosive player. Give me an exciting player for our third string running back, or give me Alfred Morris. No in between. I'm going to be taking Kansas running back Puka Williams, and it's pretty much for very similar reasons to Bobby. I was attracted to Puka Williams because of his very short, his short height, and I was attracted to him because he has a very, very fun name. And then lo and behold, he's one of the players that I have enjoyed watching the most. He was one of my players that was a gotta have it player for me. I think, Bobby, all these players, Waddle, he was a gotta have it player. Asai was a gotta have it player. Josh Myers was a gotta have it player. Monty Rice, you took from me, or else I think he would have been gotta have it. Shakur Brown, I wanted to preview. So I feel very, very confident in my list and guys that I'm familiar with and guys that not only that I like or love, but I gotta have it. And Puka Williams is one of those guys that I gotta have him. Give me an explosive option for third string running back. When he comes in, he's always going to be somewhat of a threat.
You know what? My running back doesn't cut his toes off in a lawnmower, so IQ matters.
I think that's fun though.
Yeah, it is fun. Like I bet you that story. I almost hope we get Puka so we can interview and be like, dude, what was it like cutting your literally cutting your toes off with a lawnmower? And then his team and Khalil Herbert, who went to Virginia Tech, who transferred from Kansas, he doesn't have toes. Or maybe on like one foot. Let me Google the Khalil Herbert toes story. Let's get that right for the people.
That's strange.
Khalil
he just doesn't have toes.
Toes
in the water, ass in the sand. Not a worry in the world. A cold beer in my hand. Copyright. What are you finding?
Why? Wait, Khalil Herbert has 6 toes on his left foot?
Fun.
I was born with 12 fingers. They were cut off when I was younger. I still have 6 toes on my left foot, and they're webbed. So there's 3 regular ones and 3 that are webbed together. The left foot, I feel like I have a little more power pushing off. All right, this is weird. I had a friend in middle school who had a thumb growing out of his thumb.
Excuse me?
He had his thumb, and there was another thumb growing out of it. My uncle Danny had that, but they had it like removed like as soon as.
All of these people born in Florida.
I don't know where this guy was born, but he was a very bad kid. Like he was a troublemaker. He used to get Mr. Alban really mad at in math class.
Well, it sucks when you got a thumb growing out of a thumb.
Oh man. All right. We really do appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting through the draft stuff. And make sure to join us for the live streams. We'll be on today, tomorrow, Thursday at 7:30. We will be going live. We'll be going, live to probably like 10 o'clock or so. And then Friday and Saturday, we're going to be live for the entire draft. So be there. We're going to have a ton of fun doing it. Monday, we will, tomorrow, Friday, we'll have our first round recap episode with a little bit of preview of what we see on the board for round 2. And then we'll be streaming. Monday, we'll be back with a full NFL draft recap. And then we do the offensive undrafted or the undrafted free agent recaps, the 2 episodes after that. So this is fun, man. This is the time of the year where we grow. We really do appreciate you. If you're a new listener, like we really do appreciate you. And you'll see in the summer, like we love our listeners. So we love you guys. Enjoy the draft. Have a good time. Well, until then, let's go Big Blue.